You can step on the scale and see the same number you did 10 years ago. And on the surface, that might feel reassuring. But here is the problem. The number on the scale does not tell you what that weight is made of. And for most people over 50, the composition of their body has been quietly shifting in a way that most never notice until it starts causing real, measurable problems. Muscle mass naturally declines with age. It begins in your 30s, accelerates after 50, and if nothing is done, it continues year after year. And because it happens so gradually, you do not feel it happening in real time. You just notice one day that things feel harder than they used to. The stairs feel steeper, the grocery bags feel heavier, you have less energy, you tire more easily. And the common assumption is that this is just what getting older feels like, that it is inevitable and there is nothing you can do about it. But here is the truth. Much of what we call aging, at least the physical decline part, is not inevitable at all. It is a specific, measurable, and reversible biological process called sarcopenia. And the evidence from decades of research is overwhelming. With the right approach, you can not only slow this process down, you can reverse it. You can rebuild muscle at any age. In this video, I want to walk through exactly what is happening to your muscles as you get older, why it matters far more for your long-term health than most people realize, and the specific, practical steps you can take starting today to protect the muscle that keeps you strong, independent, and healthy. Because the research is clear. Your future health depends on the muscle you have right now. And here is why this matters so much for you specifically. If you are over 50, you are at the exact age where the rate of muscle loss starts to accelerate. But you are also at the exact age where the right interventions have the biggest impact. The window is wide open. And the research is unambiguous that building muscle later in life is not only possible, it produces some of the most dramatic health improvements seen in any medical intervention. Improved blood sugar, better cholesterol, stronger bones, lower inflammation, better balance, and a dramatically reduced risk of falls and fractures. This is not vanity. This is medicine. Part 1. Before we get into the solutions, let us understand the problem. Sarcopenia comes from the Greek words for loss of flesh, and it is the progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass and strength that occurs with aging. It affects everyone eventually, but the rate at which it happens is heavily influenced by lifestyle, and that is the part that gives you control. After about the age of 30, the average person loses somewhere between 3 and 8% of their muscle mass per decade, and that rate accelerates significantly after the age of 60. By the time someone reaches their 80s, they may have lost up to half of the muscle mass they had at their peak in their 20s and 30s. Now those numbers might sound abstract, so let me tell you what they mean in practical terms. That loss of muscle translates directly into loss of strength, loss of mobility, loss of balance, and loss of metabolic function. But here's the deeper point that most people never hear. Muscle is not just for moving your body around. It is the largest metabolic organ you have. It is where your body stores amino acids for repair and recovery. It is the primary consumer of glucose in your bloodstream. And it is the engine that drives your basal metabolic rate, meaning the number of calories you burn just by being alive. When you lose muscle, your metabolism slows down. You burn fewer calories at rest. Your body becomes less efficient at clearing sugar from your blood after a meal. Your bones lose the mechanical stimulation they need to stay dense. Your balance deteriorates, and your risk of falls, fractures, and metabolic disease all rise together. This is why muscle loss is not a cosmetic issue. It is not about how you look in the mirror. It is a longevity issue. A study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed thousands of older adults and found that low muscle mass was a stronger predictor of early death than obesity. People who were overweight but had good muscle mass tended to live longer than people who were normal weight but had low muscle mass. That finding has been replicated across multiple, large studies, and it is one of the most important things to understand about aging. Your muscle mass matters more than your weight. Part 2. Now let us talk about why this muscle loss is happening. Understanding the drivers is critical because each one is something you can do something about. There are 3 main drivers of sarcopenia that you need to understand. The first is a phenomenon called anabolic resistance. This is a scientific way of saying that as you get older, your muscles become less sensitive to the signals that tell them to grow and repair. In a younger person, a relatively small amount of protein and a relatively modest workout can trigger significant muscle protein synthesis. Your body responds quickly to the signal of food and exercise. But as you age, your body needs a much stronger signal to get the same response. You need more protein per meal to trigger the same amount of muscle building. You need more stimulus from exercise. Your muscles become harder to build and easier to lose. It is like turning a dial that requires more effort to get the same result. The second driver is chronic low-grade inflammation. Scientists call this inflammaging. As we get older, our immune system tends to become more active in a non-specific way. It produces higher levels of inflammatory markers even when there is no infection or injury to fight. This constant low-level inflammation directly interferes with the signaling pathways that build and maintain muscle. It shifts your body towards breaking down muscle tissue instead of building it up. And the sources of this inflammation are often dietary. Ultra-processed foods, seed oils that have been oxidized through high-heat cooking, excess sugar, and a lack of the anti-inflammatory compounds found in vegetables and healthy fats. The third driver is the most frustrating one because it is completely within your control. Physical inactivity. This might sound obvious, but the degree to which modern life has stripped away the need for muscle use is truly extraordinary. We sit in cars to get places. We sit at desks to work. We sit on couches to relax. We take elevators and escalators instead of stairs. We shop online instead of walking through stores. We use remote controls and automatic doors and delivery services. All of these conveniences eliminate the day-to-day muscle stimulation that your body evolved to need. Your muscles follow a simple rule: use them or lose them. And when you combine anabolic resistance, chronic inflammation, and a sedentary lifestyle, you have a perfect storm for accelerating muscle loss year after year. Part 3. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that most people over 50 get wrong. The most effective strategy for maintaining and rebuilding muscle after 50 is not what you probably think. Most people assume that building muscle requires heavy gym equipment and intense workouts. And while resistance training is absolutely essential, the most critical and most overlooked factor is actually protein intake. Specifically, the amount of protein you eat, how you distribute it across your meals, and the source of that protein. And the problem starts with the official recommendations. The standard recommended daily allowance for protein was set based on studies in young adults and has never been properly updated for the aging population. The current RDA is 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For a person weighing 70 kilograms, that is about 56 grams of protein per day. And the research is clear that this is simply not enough to maintain muscle mass in someone over 50, let alone build it. A consensus statement published in the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging in 2024, endorsed by an international group of Sarcopenia researchers, recommended that older adults consume between 1.2 and 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. That is roughly double the standard recommendation. For that same 70-kilogram person, we are now talking about 84 to 112 grams of protein per day, but here is the critical detail that almost no one talks about. It is not just about the total amount you eat in a day. It is about how you distribute it. Your body has a ceiling on how much protein it can use for muscle synthesis in a single meal. Research consistently shows that the optimal amount per meal is roughly 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein. Any more than that in one sitting, and the excess is not used for muscle building. It is either oxidized for energy or stored as fat. So if you eat a very small breakfast with 10 grams of protein, a moderate lunch with 20 grams, and then a large dinner with 60 or 70 grams of protein, you are leaving most of that dinner protein on the table as far as muscle building is concerned. Your body simply cannot use it all at once. The far more effective approach is to aim for 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein at each meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that means breakfast needs a serious upgrade for most people. A typical breakfast of toast and jam or cereal with milk provides maybe 10 to 15 grams of protein. You want to double or triple that. Eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, a quality protein powder, or leftover meat from the previous night's dinner are all excellent options. And if you are someone who does not eat much at breakfast, a protein shake is a convenient and effective way to get those grams in without having to prepare a full meal. Part 4. Now let us talk about the exercise side of this equation. Because protein alone will not build muscle if you do not give your body a reason to use it. And here is the uncomfortable truth that a lot of people do not want to hear. Walking, while excellent for your cardiovascular health, your joint mobility, and your mental well-being, is not enough to prevent muscle loss. Walking does not provide the mechanical tension that muscle fibers need to grow and maintain their size. To stimulate muscle protein synthesis, you need to load your muscles with resistance that is high enough to challenge them. And the research is clear on what works. 2 to 3 resistance training sessions per week, targeting the major muscle groups of the legs, back, chest, and core, is sufficient to maintain and even build muscle mass in older adults. And you don't need a gym membership or heavy equipment to do this. Bodyweight exercises like squats, lunges, step-ups, push-ups, and planks are effective for beginners and can be done at home. Resistance bands are excellent and can be progressively loaded as you get stronger. And if you do have access to a gym, compound movements like the leg press, chest press, seated row, and lat pull-down give you the most efficiency for your time. But here is the principle that matters more than any specific exercise: progressive overload. This is non-negotiable. It means that over time, you need to gradually increase the demand you place on your muscles. You can do this by adding more weight, doing more repetitions, increasing the number of sets, or reducing the rest time between sets. If you do the same workout with the same weight at the same intensity for months, your muscles will have no reason to adapt and grow. They will simply maintain what they have. And for people over 50, maintaining is not enough because the natural drift of aging is pulling in the opposite direction. You need to be actively building to offset that drift. A study published in the journal Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that just 12 weeks of progressive resistance training in adults aged 60 to 75 increased muscle strength by an average of 40% and muscle size by about 10%. That is not a small change. That is a dramatic improvement in a very short period of time. And it happened in average older adults who were not athletes or fitness enthusiasts. They just started a structured program and stuck with it. Part 5. There is one more factor that does not get nearly enough attention in the muscle loss conversation, and it might be the most practical intervention of all: vitamin D. Vitamin D is not just for bone health. It plays a direct and critical role in muscle function. Muscle cells have vitamin D receptors, and when your vitamin D levels are insufficient, muscle protein synthesis is impaired, muscle strength decreases, and the risk of falls increases significantly. A meta-analysis published in Osteoporosis International found that vitamin D supplementation in older adults with low baseline levels reduced the risk of falls by about 20%. And the connection to muscle mass is even more direct. Low vitamin D levels are associated with smaller muscle fiber size and lower muscle strength, independent of physical activity levels. And here is the problem. Vitamin D deficiency is extraordinarily common in older adults. Up to 40% of adults over 50 in the United States have insufficient levels. The symptoms of deficiency are subtle and easily dismissed: fatigue, muscle aches, general weakness, the exact same things that most people chalk up to getting older. And because these symptoms are so general and nonspecific, vitamin D deficiency often goes unnoticed for years while people simply assume they are experiencing normal aging. The connection to muscle is rarely made. So if you are eating enough protein, doing your resistance training, and still feel like you are losing ground, checking your vitamin D level is one of the simplest and most impactful steps you can take. Most adults over 50 need somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 international units of vitamin D per day to maintain adequate levels. But the only way to know your personal requirement is to get a blood test. Part 6. I want to bring all of this together into a clear action framework, because information without action is just noise. And I know you did not come here to be told what is going wrong. You came here to know what to do about it. So here is the practical plan. The approach to preventing and reversing muscle loss after 50 rests on 3 integrated pillars. The first pillar is protein. Aim for 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein at every meal, distributed evenly across breakfast, lunch, and dinner. This puts your total daily intake between 90 and 120 grams, which is exactly where the research says older adults need to be. Good sources are eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, salmon, chicken, lean beef, tofu, and quality protein powders. The second pillar is resistance training, 2 to 3 sessions per week. Focus on compound movements that work the largest muscle groups. Use progressive overload. If it starts to feel easy, increase the challenge. And do not be afraid of starting light. The most important workout is the one you actually do. The third pillar is support. Optimize your vitamin D levels through supplementation. Prioritize sleep, because that is when your body repairs and builds muscle tissue. Keep your overall inflammation low by eating a diet rich in vegetables, healthy fats, and whole foods, and minimizing the ultra-processed foods that drive chronic inflammation. And if you smoke or drink more than moderate amounts of alcohol, addressing those 2 factors will also make a significant difference to your muscle health. And here is the most important thing I can leave you with. It is never too late to start. The research consistently shows that even people in their 80s and 90s can build muscle mass and strength with the right intervention. Your muscles are not predetermined to shrink as you age. They respond to the signals you give them. And the signals you are giving them right now are determining the body you will have in 5, 10, and 20 years. Every meal is a signal. Every workout is a signal. Every night of quality sleep is a signal. And you have far more control over those signals than you think. If you are not sure where to begin, here is a starting point that takes almost no planning. Tomorrow morning, add an extra serving of protein to your breakfast. Have 3 eggs instead of 1. Add a scoop of collagen or whey protein to your coffee. Eat Greek yogurt with some nuts instead of cereal. That single change moves you closer to the 30 to 40 gram per meal target that the research says is optimal. And then this week, do 1 resistance workout. Just 1. It can be 15 minutes in your living room, bodyweight squats, push-ups on your knees, lunges, and a plank. That is enough to start sending your muscles the signal that they are needed and that they need to hold on to what they have. 1 small change to your breakfast and 1 short workout this week is all it takes to begin reversing the trajectory. You do not need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to start. And starting small is the most reliable way to build